So I have Doug Androsky with me today. We were able to connect through social media, something that we were running that he replied to and struck a chord with me. His focus is on fatherlessness and quantifying that and digging into it and trying to create an awareness as well as develop some of the metrics in order to be able to really dig deep down on it and then start to be able to address the overall issue. How are you doing, Doug?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, my honor. Looking at your website, it's pretty detailed. It looks like you really are doing a good job of being able to get at this. So maybe if you can explain maybe how this got started, just to kick it off, and then maybe roll into what you're doing with all of it.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Jeff. Thanks. So I grew up in a town northern Minnesota, Wisconsin, Superior, Duluth area up by Lake Superior, and that's the town I referenced where I moved over 36 times before I was 17, and not in the military. And it was really only in that one town. But I did join the military and then came back shortly after my deployment in 2012. And someone shared with me one of the five I actually write about in my book, Built to Father, that Doug, your purpose and passion in life is fathering the fatherless. And so, to share this story in just a short condensed version, fast forward to now, here's Fathering the Fatherless organization here in Tennessee. And out of that came my book, Built to Father, and it's a trilogy because being military intelligence in the military, I recognized that there wasn't anything really for men, for fathers, like easy reference guide of how to be a father. And so put the acronym together, and it's the Shepherd framework, and we can dive into that in a little bit. But and I want to call out something too, Jeff, that you're sitting in Pennsylvania, and I'm sitting in Tennessee, and there's a significance about, you alluded to the connection via social media, and it's amazing what technology can do for us and the connections, because this isn't just a Tennessee issue. This isn't just a Minnesota, Wisconsin issue. This is an issue across the nation, across the world, dare I say. And I'm grateful for this connection. I'm grateful for this conversation and where it goes.
Yeah, so that's interesting because you had said you were from Tennessee, and I'm like, that's the oddest sounding Southern accent I've ever heard. So it's melding
Yeah.
the Minnesota and South. So that's why that is a very unique accent that you got going there.
Yes. Yes.
Well, of course, Dad's Resource Center, our focus, founded by Joel Myers, the founder CEO of AccuWeather, and Joel went through some things as a single father, and so our focus is on the challenges that fathers face in the human services county system, specifically the family courts, and it's just not good at all. But the reason that we do this, it's unfair. Now, and let
Yeah.
me just take a step back. We always have to say this at the beginning. We recognize that a lot of separated families, mom and dad work things out reasonably well for their children, and they make it work, right? Because we're stuck at that number. You're saying about one third. That's what it is. And it's been that way for a long time now. And that's just the world we live in. So we can support traditional marriage, and we want to, and help people get into it and be able to stay into it if that's safe and all of that. But this is the world that we live in. A lot of people work that out. In some situations, the father's the problem. And we recognize that and we know that and we don't accept that, because if you got two children do better when they have both parents fully active in their childhood, because mothers and fathers give different but equally important things to their children. And in order for children to have success in life, they need both of those things in growing up. Um, but so we don't accept when a man does that or is enabled to do that by the family courts. But it often happens to fathers, right? That's just the way it is. And there's more out there for women than there are for fathers to help them generally and in these types of specific situations. So that's our focus and that's our lens. But we do recognize, we understand a lot of people work this out reasonably well. And we do know that there are mothers who end up being cut out of their life needlessly, no good reason, the same as it happens to fathers. So that's the rider that has to precurse all discussions like this.
Yeah. Yeah. And you come from it from that angle, and you're that angle with Dad's Resource Center and my angle of equipping men, whether present, absent, wounded, or whole, is the framework. It's complementary. And
Yes.
that's why I think you saw the connection when I posted and you saw what I was doing or what I'm doing and the invitation of this conversation. I'm excited to dive into this.
And to drill down one step further where we're shared and we're working definitely on the same motive is it's unfair to fathers and or fathers need what you provide to them to be able to do their job and do it well. But it is it's about the children
Yeah.
at the end of the day, right? That's what our focus is.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the legacy we leave behind, right, Jeff? And that's the whole purpose of what I'm doing. It's we can leave a 401k, we can leave a house. I mean, and there's some biblical standing for leaving an inheritance or some financial benefit for your family. But I mean, those are all monetary, and it's the character, it's the lives, it's the hearts and the minds of the children, like you said, that we leave behind. And it's unfortunate that the what's the word, the crutch or the thing that's hindering some of these fathers is the court system that you're talking about, that you're pushing for. And I write from that position of let's stop doing what was and let's start doing something different. You alluded to the third the percentage that's out there, the 33% of the homes are single parent households. And Jeff, I dove into it over the weekend, and that hasn't changed since the 90s. Since the 90s. And I wrote an article, and I don't know if you referenced that on my website or found it yet, but 9.75-ish billion dollars is spent on family services in the United States. But Jeff, like, that trend hasn't changed since the 90s. And so what was working isn't what should be the thing we are referencing and going back to and defaulting to. We have to do something different. And that's what I propose in my book and the foundation that I'm doing in the work. It's the shepherd framework. We were designed to be better fathers and leave that legacy.
I can say personally, I never met my father.
Mm,
I never, ever in my entire life, and it impacted me. It made everything harder for me. And I learned a lot of lessons the embarrassing or hard way because I didn't have someone to teach me or to model from. And that's what you're talking about is, yeah, it's financially you can do better, and be able to help your children have success because you come from better resources in that regard, but it's the more fundamental things that your experience as a human being and what you have to navigate day to day. You're going to do better, whether it's a boy or a girl, because it works in different directions for them, right? You're going to be able to interact better with people, navigate through life if you have a father who can model to you as a man how to do things, or as a woman how to deal with men and things with men. So, absolutely, yes.
yeah.
So I guess going to the next step with this, what are you finding when you're digging into all of this data and you're looking at it? What are you finding?
Yeah, so let's speak on just Pennsylvania just for a little bit, because you and I spoke, and that's where you're sitting currently. And I put in the work over the weekend just for this episode for you. And the highest county in Pennsylvania is Philadelphia County. Shouldn't be a surprise to you. It's sitting at about 53% of single parent households. Now, your organization and what you're doing with these single dads or these fathers, there's so let's look at this. 423,000 ish are single parent households. Of that, 114,000 are single fathers. 114,000.
in Pennsylvania.
in Pennsylvania, and the
Okay.
rest are single mothers. So that more speaks to it's almost three-quarters of the single parent households are single moms, and then the rest are the single fathers. And it's and that goes back to the work that I'm doing in the book and the resources that we provide is just providing and I'm losing my train of thought, sorry,
Yeah.
providing the resources. And well, that's where I'm getting at. This isn't for just the fathers, it's for the mothers, it's for everyone, because this isn't just, again, going back to what I said, it's not just Tennessee, it's not Pennsylvania, it's everywhere, it's for everyone.
Well, and this, I say this very often, parenting is a two-person job.
Yeah.
And you should never put either parent in a position to have to do it alone. And it's even worse when you have two parents. The second parent is able and willing, but they're unable to do it. And so, I mean, I can tell you, our family, we kind of um, uh, tap in and tap out on some issues, like with our youngest daughter. Yeah, when she was struggling in school, I spent a couple of years. That was my focus, and I kind of had to tap out, and my wife, her mom, kind of tapped back in more and carried on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So you absolutely need both parents working together.
Yeah, and I speak on this and talk about it as well, Jeff. And it's, you know, mothers weren't designed to be fathers, just like your fathers are not designed to be mothers. And it's exactly true. Like we were all designed to be in a a, a relationship that complements each other well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yep, yep. So, I guess our interest, so overall those numbers, and if you can share this with me afterwards, that would be great. Because I think this is very useful for some of the things that we're trying to do with funding and that type of stuff. But our focus is mainly on central Pennsylvania, Center County, which is basically the center of the map, and then our surrounding counties around us, like Clearfield, Huntington, and those types of things, Mifflin. Um, so, but this is something we can communicate afterwards. Uh, what have you looked into outside of just the numbers relative to single families and fatherlessness? What other kind of data are you finding in the work that you're doing?
One thing that is sticking out, and I don't know what demographic your community is specifically. What I have noticed is a trend of, for example, New Mexico. New Mexico, that entire state is almost red as far as the counties. And red for us means it's over a threshold. It's greater than 35% of single parent households. And the data tells me that it's because there's no resources out there for the Latino Spanish speaking communities. And that's a big effort for me in this effort of what I'm doing with the book Built to Father is getting that into Spanish. Because there's nothing like what I write about, the Shepherd framework, in the English language about having a manual to being a father, and there's most definitely not in the Spanish language. And so that's one of the current trends, Jeff, that I'm actually seeing right now. And I've only completed about 9 of the 50 states that we have, and 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 I will be releasing in 2027, just for your situational awareness,
Okay.
a comprehensive overview of the entire United States, and where we sit on the global stage. Because I'm not in agreement that we are number one for single parent households or children raised in single parent households as a nation. So yeah, that's what I'm seeing right now. And there's pockets too. And here's the other thing, actually. Uh, Not one county, not one state, not one city can say this isn't an issue. Absolutely not. There's some states, even Utah. Utah is 51, and I include District of Columbia, by the way. Utah is the last state for single parent households. They rank the lowest.
Okay. Yeah.
And you mentioned going to, policy making, funding, all of that. And here's another piece of information I found is that there's a representative out of that state in Utah that in partnership with a representative in Florida uh, proposed a fatherless resolution at the House. And I'm like, well, okay, all right, what does that tell me? Right? Like they obviously care for this being an issue outside of their respective states, right? Um, but that then means there's also visibility and there's work being done on that level. So it's exciting. It's good. We're in a great time, Jeff. I do think there's a lot of momentum behind men being fathers, fathers doing what they were designed to do. And I'm excited to see what the next several years looks like.
Well, it's kind of a contradiction. That's not the exact word, but that's as close as I'm going to get at the moment. But I think we're at a time where there are a lot of challenges for fathers. At the same time, fathers are more engaged in fathering now than they ever have been. Just doing the basic kind of things, taking children to the doctors and those types of things. It's a bit of a spillover from women coming into the workplace, and it takes many years for societies to evolve and kind of resettle after things occur. But I think that there's more of a shared responsibility for some of the things that in prior times had been just the domain for the mothers,
Yeah.
as well as just the heart space and the meaningfulness of fatherhood to fathers and men now more than ever, and this is kind of like more. I'm a little older than what I look, and I was a child in the 70s, and fatherhood consisted of sitting at the bar maybe and pulling out a picture of your kids.
Yep.
Hey, these are my kids. But now you're coaching the teams, you're doing all these other things. I mean, you're really rolling up your sleeves and engaged in being fathers. So
Right.
that just kind of came up for me after your last statement.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I met a 70-year-old. Actually, he's the guy who wrote my forward. Um, and I had a men's breakfast last month, and something told me, he said, I wish I had this when I was raising my kids, my resource, my book. And I'll go even further. And and I met a 90-year-old at a book signing last month too. And he vividly remembers a time back when he was a kid. Now, if you can just let's put a thinking hat on for just a minute. 90 years old, that would have probably been 80 years ago when he was a teenager. So that's probably what, the 40s, late 40s. Now, times obviously were a bit rough around that time frame, right? But his vivid memory of his dad was when he was working on a farm, and his friends come over and asked him to play. And like, if just again what was going on in the nation, what was going around in the world, and providing, him and his dad were just cutting a piece of lumber, probably for food or like heat or something, right? And he looked at his dad, and his dad said, go and play, go have fun. Oh, that's cool, man. The 90-year-old remembering that. And so, yeah, the trends are showing me this, that we need to stop defaulting to what we were taught, what our dad did or did not teach us. And we were designed to be different. We were designed to be a good father. And Jeff, you can't make the claim. I can't make the claim. No one can make the claim in my world that we are good fathers. God is a good father, and when we distort the word good, we lose sight of who God is as a good father. Because how I represent being a father, how you represent being a father, our kids see it. They don't care about what we say. They see
Yeah.
it. They see it with our actions. They see the dad that shows up at court. They see the dad who's fighting for them. And that's going to leave like a monumental impact on the legacy that father leaves behind, the fathers that you serve.
Thank you. Thank you. So, can you speak a little bit more as to outside of the data that you're working on, but your mentoring or your coaching or what it is that you um, are putting forward in terms of helping fathers really maximize and be the best fathers that they can be? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, yeah. So let me pause and let me just share a quick story, and this will get to your point of what I'm doing and the efforts I'm trying to get to. In on June 9th, here in my county, Murray County, Tennessee, by the way, uh, a mayor wrote and read out loud a proclamation declaring June 20th as Fathering the Fatherless Day in our county. There's over 3,100 counties in the United States, and I can't make the claim that we are the only ones who have done it, but we are one of. And so we have in our county the day before Father's Day as Fathering the Fatherless Day in our county. At this reading, I had a representative from the state, I had a representative from the federal government. And I say this, that the data I put together is one piece, the book is another piece. And when those things can be used in unison, it can help a movement. It can help get the word out, because it's one thing to be like have a passion and purpose of fatherlessness. It's another thing to say, hey, I have the data to show it. I have the data that says over the last 30 years this number hasn't changed, and we have $10 billion being poured into these foundations or nonprofits that serving families. And what's actually happening? What's happening, Jeff? And and so I say that to say, our foundation, not Fathering the Fatherless in Tennessee, is not respective to Tennessee. We're going national. This is a movement, and we are a data and resource providing foundation. I recognize that there's obviously thousands of family services out there providing something to men, to women, to children. I don't need to compete with that. And God allowed me to serve in the military, and I'm transitioning out, but I'm ending it as a military intelligence and seeing patterns and statistical analysis, writing intelligence briefings for commanders and senior leadership. That's a specific trait, Jeff, that is awesome in this world, to put everything together, because it's one thing to reference and look at the data from the Annie Casey Foundation that you referenced earlier. It's another thing to take that data, compile it with the census data, make it make sense in a picture that is specific to fatherlessness. And so I'm excited, Jeff. God is doing something pretty awesome. And I'm available for speaking engagements, podcasts like this that you were kind to invite me to, and spreading the word. That's the whole goal, whole purpose, and mission. So
All right. All right. So anything else while we're here? Any other thoughts or anything else you'd like to add?
yeah, Jeff, let's. I would like to ask you a couple questions if you don't mind. You mentioned about the dads that you serve. What are you seeing? Maybe the top three issues. What when these fathers come to you, what are you seeing from the Dad's Resource Center as far as the things hindering them, more or less, from and try let's the courts isn't obvious, I think, right? And so what else outside of the courts and the obvious mom? What any specific things that they're referencing?
Well, again, a lot of people work it out on their own reasonably well.
Yeah.
Um, but the the family courts um, also do dependency court. So the same judges and lawyers that do family law relative to custody also do children and youth in CPS law.
Mm.
And I used to do that kind of work.
Yeah.
I basically social work for 15 years, so I'm really familiar with those systems.
Yeah.
And what you deal with are a lot of families that are low socioeconomic, generational type of families that just have, real issues. You need to educate them and help them learn better ways to be parents from a neglect and just the way that they care for their children. And then you're dealing with people who have substance abuse issues or mental health issues, as well as child abuse, just really horrible things that we don't want to imagine, to just being physically abusive. And so those are the situations that we would work with children and youth services and the courts to help try to ensure the safety of children. In order for courts to give custody of children to the government, there's kind of a high burden. So if you go into court, you ask a judge to give the children to the county,
Yeah.
you need evidence, you need testimony, you need reports, all these different kinds of things. But that standard changes in family courts because they're not giving children to the government, they're just giving it to another parent. So the whole standard of what you do when you go with custody just is hearsay, comments.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then the courts also, the issue of domestic violence. And again, to reiterate, we 100% support all the interventions and programs for domestic violence. And we support them 100%. And any situation, women and children need to be treated with grace, respect, dignity. And if that's not the case, those systems are in place for a reason. But they can be misused and they're a bear trap. And they're hair trigger, and once they go off, it breaks a leg, and it's unrelenting. Because when you're dealing with abusive people, they're manipulative, so they're built and designed to not be manipulated. But when you trigger that on people who aren't being abusive, and it's a miscast,
Mm.
it becomes very problematic. And this is one of the points of emphasis for us as an organization, and why we've taken a focus on the issue of domestic violence as it pertains to men, fathers specifically being the victim of, as well as the false allegations of these types of things. And these are primary issues that we're addressing now by we now are providing services in our county to fathers who've been subjected to domestic violence because no one else is doing that, literally, in the country. And also to start to say it goes both ways. It isn't just a one-way track. So that's the most pervasive and strongest element in the family courts in terms of challenges. But the other things, guardian ad litems, which are appointed representatives for children, by our observations, we've had hundreds of fathers relate and talk to us about their situations. I've been in dozens of courts, so I see how things are going. And there's some good guardian ad litems that are balanced. Um, there's some that are just generally not good at their jobs. And then a lot of times, again, you have this bias and this unfairness that exists. And then also there's the issue of money and decisions being made relative to custody to be able to, because the math for alimony or support for parents who are separated is based on custody time. And here in Pennsylvania, specifically overnights. And so a parent, if they are so oriented, who's making financial decisions, will use the system, misuse the system in a way to have control of custody, not so much for the benefit of the children, but for the money. And the
Mm.
courts get caught up in that, and that becomes a big part of the problem. We actually have fathers who make deals where they say, we will maintain the custody arrangement on paper so that you get the money, but I end up having the kids most of the time. Right?
Mm.
They kind of buy someone off in that way. So
Mm.
the money, the issue of domestic violence that is misused, and the fear that judges have, and concerns. I mean, there's a lot going on. Those are the biggest things that make. I think there's already we revere mothers. and we hold mothers up highly in this country, that's okay. But it kind of makes those things go really out of whack and put capable, able, willing fathers on the bench when they should be in the game. So that's kind of the over.
Yeah, that's interesting. And as you're talking, I'm just thinking, statistically, what happens when a father is not in the home. And I don't have that data in front of me, but it's widely shared. And culturally, I mean, it's a lot that happens, from human trafficking, sex trafficking, child abuse, neglect, crime rates, drug use, drug abuse. Um, and you compile that, and then again, going back to the way God gave my mind, is 30 years of nothing changed. And you gotta, I mean, Jeff, you're a smart guy. Like, why? 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 And we don't, I mean, we could talk hypotheticals all we want on this show, but I mean, and we have our opinions of why. Um, but Jeff, if I may just, um, I wanted to share one last thing, if I may.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Uh, the Shepherd framework is an acronym, and the one that stands out here, and I kind of already shared a little bit about it, is that protector and provider, the P in Shepherd. And it's not just providing financially, it's not just providing emotionally or physically. It's being present, it's being there, it's showing up, it's fighting for your kiddos and your children when the injustices are against you. And 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 i i, I can see no greater um, purpose than what you and the Dad's Resource Center is doing for these fathers. And I am very grateful for this connection. I hope at some level my book can be a resource for your fathers that you serve, so they can help not recreate this environment and help change that 30-year trend, um, for the best.
So you've referenced it a couple of times, and it's our absolute position too, is that they're putting a lot of money into things that could be fixed if you just let dads do their jobs, quite honestly. And let me circle back around the demographic you had brought up, Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania. That demographic there. One of the issues is folks like you and I, we have franchise, and not everyone is like us. Like we're just built in a way that we see injustice in the system, we're taking it on. Most people, the vast majority of people, the system is bigger than them. They're just trying to get through life. And to walk into a courtroom or any kind of governmental system, it's overwhelming. And so what happens is a lot of these fathers otherwise may be timid in some ways, but the thing that really breaks them to not really step up is fear of the system, right? And knowing how the system, so the counterweight of all of that. And if the system just was more father friendly, and they know they could go in and not like there's a warrant or something they did before, like there are a lot of different things hanging over their heads. And so just developing what you're doing through your process is that fathers are important. Let's
Yeah.
let's stake that flag and have more of like what you worked with your county. And I need to do that here. And I've thought about doing that for a couple of years. I got to model you and do that here for our county on Father's Day too. Like we got to do those kinds of things, and it'll help with some of these other situations without not directly doing a lot of things. If people know it's okay and they can ease into doing those, being the father the way that they should be.
Yeah, and as Braveheart, I assume you've seen it, and I've assumed a lot of your dads have seen it. But that image came to mind, Jeff, in that sense of stand your line, You are the father. It's your household, and you have a responsibility, and it's not a light one. It's a big deal. And there is some weight. There is a lot of weight that comes with it. And it's okay as well to be feeling that weight, that pressure, but don't cave in. That's the encouragement. Don't give up. And here's the image with Braveheart is there is a line of men ready to fight with you. Lock arms. It's like a chain. Everyone knows what a chain looks like. Everyone knows the strength that can come from a chain, especially when you think about the anchor being pulled down into the ocean from a Navy vessel. That's some power. And when that is strong and linked in relationships and connections with other men or other fathers doing what they should be doing, designed, not default, yeah, you'll get through it. You'll get through it. And by God's grace, you'll be better for it.
Absolutely. And that's what we're growing in our stature and our nature. But one of the things we emphasize, and it's where you're coming from too, is we all got to work together. Like we can specialize in what we're doing, but we got to pull together and row in the same direction because we're going to be have much more of an impact and have that opportunity to make that change if we're all working together on it. So absolutely, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I will help champion Jeff. Honestly, I did say this that Fathering the Fatherless Day in Murray County on June 20th, the day before Father's Day, is the starting point. It's going to the nation. And I would love to help champion what that looks like in other states, other counties. So love this introduction, love the connection. Thanks again so much for having me.